The Galactic Council chamber fell silent as the holographic display illuminated the center of the vast circular room. 57 species from across the known universe watched in horror as a small blue planet, previously deemed primitive and harmless, unleashed devastation upon the Axoni invasion fleet. "Impossible," whispered High Counselor Zexra, his four eyes widening as the recording showed human warships, crude by galactic standards, methodically dismantling vessels built with technology centuries beyond their own. They were supposed to be defenseless. Ambassador Thela of the Mercian Confederacy leaned forward, her feline features tight with concern. "That's the third species this cycle to underestimate the humans. The Axoni won't be making that mistake again." The massive chamber, carved from a single asteroid and floating at the nexus of 7 major hyperspace lanes, buzzed with nervous energy. What none of the assembled dignitaries knew was that the human representative, Commander Elena Reyes, was already aboard the station, making her way to deliver humanity's message to the stars. 10 years earlier, Earth had been just another unremarkable world on the galactic frontier. The first contact had been neither dramatic nor apocalyptic, just a simple communication from a passing Vushian survey vessel that changed humanity forever. Asterisk, you are not alone, asterisk. Dr. Marcus Chen stood at his observatory window, gazing at the stars as he had thousands of times before. But tonight was different. Tonight, he knew with certainty what lived among those distant points of light. "They've scheduled another meeting," said Amara Okafor, his research partner, as she entered the room. Her usual confident stride was replaced by something more hesitant. "The president wants you there." Marcus nodded. At 53, with gray streaking his black hair, he had never expected to become humanity's unofficial ambassador to the stars. "Did they say which species this time?" "Something called the Axoni Imperium," Amara replied, handing him a tablet. "Apparently, they're important, some kind of regional power." Marcus skimmed the briefing document, his stomach tightening. Unlike the peaceful Vushians, the Axoni had a reputation for acquisition. "This doesn't look good," he murmured. "It's not," Amara confirmed. "Intelligence suggests they're assessing us for integration." The word hung in the air between them. They both knew what it meant: conquest. The Axoni ambassador, Supreme Director Vexnar, was an imposing figure, standing nearly 8 feet tall with iridescent scales and 4 articulated arms. He dominated the UN Security Council chamber. "Humanity has much to offer the Imperium," Vexnar said, his translator converting the series of clicks and whistles into smooth, accentless English. "Your biological diversity alone makes your world valuable. In exchange for your cooperation, we offer protection and technological advancement." Marcus watched from his seat as world leaders exchanged glances. The offer was clear: surrender or face consequences. Secretary General Diallo of the United Nations leaned forward. "And if we wish to retain our independence?" Vexinar's upper arms made a dismissive gesture. "Independence is an illusion, even in the vastness of space. The galaxy operates on principles of power. You have none. We have much." His head tilted slightly. "Consider carefully. Other species have refused our generous offer. Their worlds now serve the Imperium anyway, though with far fewer of their original inhabitants. The threat couldn't have been clearer." As the meeting adjourned, Marcus found himself walking alongside General Helena Reyes of the newly formed United Earth Defense Force. "We can't fight them," Marcus said quietly. "Their technology is centuries beyond ours." Helena's face remained impassive, but her eyes burned with quiet intensity. "Perhaps not conventionally, Dr. Chen, but humans have always excelled at unconventional solutions. What are you suggesting? That we stop thinking like victims and start thinking like survivors?" She handed him a security pass. "The President has authorized Project Prometheus. I need your expertise." Marcus looked at the pass, then back to the General's determined face. "When do we start?" 6 months later, the Axoni returned, not with diplomats, but with warships. The invasion began with systematic strikes against Earth's major military installations. Particle beams lanced down from orbit, vaporizing bases, fleets, and defense systems before they could respond. Billions watched in horror as news feeds showed the devastation, until those, too, went dark. Cities burned. Millions died in the first wave. But beneath the Rocky Mountains, in a facility carved deep into the earth, Project Prometheus continued undetected. Marcus worked frantically alongside a team of Earth's brightest minds. Sleep became a distant memory as they reverse-engineered captured Axoni technology, combining it with humanity's most advanced theoretical physics. "The quantum entanglement is holding," reported Dr. Hiroshi Tanaka, his eyes bloodshot from days without proper rest. "We can transmit the signal." "But will it work?" asked Helena, now General Rice, as she studied the apparatus before them. The device looked unassuming. A sphere roughly a meter in diameter, covered in a latticework of exotic materials. "In theory," Marcus replied. "The Axoni communication network uses quantum principles we've only dreamed about. By introducing our modified signal, we should be able to affect their navigation and weapons systems." "Should be able to," Helena repeated. "That's not very reassuring, Doctor." Marcus met her gaze. "It's the best we got." An alarm sounded. A young lieutenant burst into the lab. "General, they've located the facility. Orbital bombardment incoming." Helena turned to Marcus. "It's now or never, Doctor." With trembling hands, Marcus initiated the sequence. The sphere hummed to life, pulsing with an eerie blue light. On screens around the room, they watched as the incoming Axoni ships suddenly veered off course. Some collided with each other in spectacular explosions. Others simply drifted, powerless. "It's working," someone shouted. But Marcus wasn't celebrating. He was staring at an unexpected reading on his monitor. "Something's happening. The signal, it's propagating beyond our targets." "What does that mean?" Helena demanded. Before Marcus could answer, the mountain above them took a direct hit. The ceiling cracked, raining debris down on the team. Emergency lights flashed as the power fluctuated. "We need to evacuate," Helena ordered, pulling Marcus away from his station. As they ran through collapsing corridors, Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that they had just changed the course of human history, and possibly the galaxy itself. What they didn't know was that their desperate defense had done more than disable the Axoni fleet. The signal had spread through the quantum communication network that connected all Axoni technology across the galaxy, creating a cascading failure that would bring their empire to its knees. And in the chaos that followed, humanity would rise. ##partai, the TONT. 3 years after the initial invasion, Earth had changed beyond recognition. Cities lay in ruins, but from the ashes emerged something unexpected: unity. The surviving nations had formed the Earth Defense Coalition, pooling resources and setting aside centuries-old conflicts to face the extraterrestrial threat. Old enemies now fought side by side, united by the simple drive to survive. Commander Elena Reyes stood on the bridge of the EDS Prometheus, Earth's first true starship. Built using salvaged Axoni technology and human innovation, it represented humanity's refusal to be conquered. "All systems ready, Commander," reported Captain Aisha Khan, her second in command. "Quantum drive is stable. We can launch on your order." Elena studied the tactical display. Intelligence had identified the location of the Axoni command hub for this sector, a massive space station orbiting a gas giant in a neighboring system. The plan was audacious, a strike at the heart of their operations. "What's the status of the rest of the fleet?" Elena asked. "The Phoenix and Defiance are in position," Aisha replied. "Strike teams are prepped and ready." Elena took a deep breath. 3 ships against an empire. It would have seemed ludicrous just a few years ago, but they had advantages the Axoni couldn't anticipate. "Send the signal. We launch in 5 minutes." Elena turned to the communications officer. "And get me Dr. Chen." Marcus appeared on screen moments later, now the director of the Xenotechnology Division. He had aged visibly since the invasion began, his hair now completely gray. "The QEM device is ready," he reported without preamble. "But I must reiterate my concerns. We don't fully understand the potential range or consequences." The quantum entanglement manipulator was an advanced version of the technology that had saved them during the initial invasion. It could disrupt Axoni systems across vast distances by exploiting their own communication network against them. "Noted, Doctor," Alina replied. "But we're out of options. The Axoni are regrouping. This may be our only chance to strike while they're vulnerable." Marcus nodded reluctantly. "Good luck, Commander. The fate of our species rests on this mission." The screen went dark, and Alina turned to her crew. "Battle stations. Prepare for quantum jump." The Prometheus shuddered as its experimental drive engaged, tearing a hole in space-time. In an instant, the blue-green orb of Earth vanished, replaced by the swirling colors of a gas giant and the gleaming Axoni command station. "We've arrived," Aisha announced. "Enemy vessels are scrambling to respond." "Deploy the QEM," Alina ordered. "Target their command and control systems." A technician activated the device. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, chaos erupted. Axoni ships spun out of control. The station's defensive systems turned on their own vessels. Communications became garbled nonsense. "It's working," Aisha exclaimed. "Launch boarding parties," Alina commanded. "We need their navigation data and command codes." As the human strike teams boarded the crippled station, Alina received an unexpected communication. On her private screen appeared the face of an Axoni. Not just any Axoni, but Supreme Director Vexnar himself. "You," he hissed, recognition flaring in his alien eyes. "I remember you from the Earth delegation. And I remember your promise to reduce my planet to a colony world," Alina replied coldly. "You don't understand what you've done," Vexnar said, his usual arrogance replaced by what seemed like fear. "The quantum network connects all advanced civilizations. Your weapon doesn't just affect us, it will spread." Alina felt a chill. "What do you mean, spread?" "The network is the foundation of galactic civilization," the Axoni leader explained. "By corrupting it, you've potentially destabilized everything. The Council will not." The transmission cut off abruptly as an explosion rocked the station. "Commander," Aisha called out. "We've secured the command center and downloaded their databases, but the station's reactor is going critical. We need to evacuate immediately." Alina hesitated, Vexnar's warning echoing in her mind. What had they unleashed? "Order all teams back to the ships," she commanded. "We have what we came for." As the Prometheus pulled away from the doomed station, Alina watched it erupt into a spectacular ball of plasma and debris. A victory, yes, but at what cost? The journey back to Earth was tense. The data they'd retrieved was even more valuable than anticipated, containing not just Axoni military secrets, but information about the wider galactic community. There were hundreds of spacefaring civilizations, organized under something called the Galactic Council. The Axoni were just one of many powers vying for influence, and Earth had just made a spectacular entrance onto the cosmic stage. Most troubling were the reports suggesting that the quantum disruption had indeed spread beyond the Axoni, affecting systems of other species across multiple sectors. Earth had not just defeated an invader, it had unwittingly declared war on a significant portion of the galaxy. "We need to prepare," Alina told the Earth Defense Council upon her return. "What we've done won't go unanswered." General Williams, one of the few surviving military leaders from before the invasion, leaned forward. "Are you suggesting we can fight the entire galaxy, Commander Reyes?" "No," Alina replied. "I'm suggesting we make ourselves too costly to attack. The data we recovered includes locations of abandoned outposts, technological caches, and unaligned worlds. We need to secure these resources before the Council recovers from our strike. Dr. Chen, who had been quietly analyzing the stolen data, cleared his throat. There's something else. The Council operates on consensus, but it's fractured. Many of the so-called minor species resent the dominance of powers like the Axoni. We might find allies. Allies? President Ortega sounded skeptical. After what we've done. Especially after what we've done, Alina emphasized. We've proven humans can challenge the established powers. That will appeal to those who have suffered under their rule. The Council debated long into the night. By morning, they had a plan, not just for defense, but for humanity's future among the stars. Project Diaspora would scatter human settlements across strategic locations, making humanity impossible to eradicate with a single strike. Project Harbinger would develop even more advanced weapons based on the Axoni technology. And Project Emissary would seek out potential allies among the galactic community. As the plans were put into motion, Alina found herself promoted to admiral and given command of humanity's growing fleet. 6 months later, she stood once again on the bridge of the Prometheus, now the flagship of a dozen vessels. New coordinates received, Admiral, Captain Khan reported. The Mercian delegation has agreed to meet us at the neutral location. The Mercian, a feline species with a long history of resistance against the major powers, had responded positively to humanity's overtures. If this alliance succeeded, others might follow. Set course, Captain, Alina ordered. It's time we introduced ourselves properly to the galaxy. What none of them realized was that news of humanity's victory had already spread far beyond their expectations. On countless worlds, the oppressed and marginalized watched and whispered about the species that had humbled the mighty Axoni. And in the great Galactic Council chamber, emergency sessions had been called to address the human threat. The galaxy was about to learn a painful lesson about underestimating Earth. #Part II. The Cheoan Seal. High Counselor Zexray of the Voshian Conclave stared at the reports with all 4 of his eyes. 6 standard cycles had passed since the human counterattack, and the situation had only grown more complicated. Is this information verified? He asked the Galactic Intelligence Director, a diminutive Thrix whose crystalline body shimmered under the Council chamber's lights. Multiple sources confirm, High Counselor, the Thrix responded, its voice a melodious chime. The humans have established 17 outposts across the former Axoni territories. They've also made contact with the Mercian, the Orathi Coalition, and most concerning, the Veil Collective. Zexra's primary heart quickened. The Veil Collective, a loose alliance of technologically advanced hermit species, had always refused to engage with council politics. If they were speaking with humans, the situation was even more serious than he'd feared. And what of the quantum disruption? Partially contained, but the damage to the network is extensive. Sectors 7 through 12 still experience intermittent failures. Many attribute these ongoing issues to continued human sabotage, though our analysis suggests most effects are merely echoes of the initial attack. The chamber doors parted as Ambassador Thela of the Mercian entered, her feline grace belying the power of her species. The Mercian had once been a major force in the galaxy before being pushed to the margins by the rising powers. Ambassador, Zexra acknowledged with the customary 4-armed gesture of respect. Your presence at this emergency session is appreciated. Thela's whiskers twitched, a sign of amusement among her kind. I wouldn't miss it. It's not every cycle that we see the Council so disturbed. You find our concern amusing? Questioned Delegate Kovac of the Hran Technocracy, his mechanical implants whirring as he turned to face her. I find it ironic. Thela replied smoothly. For centuries, the Council has ignored the aggressive expansion of species like the Axoni, dismissing the concerns of smaller powers. Now that someone has successfully challenged the status quo, suddenly it's a crisis. The humans didn't just challenge the Axoni, Kovac countered. They deployed a weapon that affected the quantum network across multiple sectors. Civilizations with no connection to the conflict suffered. Thela's tail swished lazily. Perhaps the network's vulnerability is the real issue here. Perhaps centralized systems that can be exploited so easily deserve to fail. Before the debate could escalate, the chamber's notification system chimed. Zexra activated the central display. "A vessel is approaching the station," announced the security eye. "It identifies itself as EDS Prometheus of Earth." A stunned silence fell over the gathering. "They dare to come here," someone whispered. Zexra raised his upper arms for silence. "We knew this moment would come." The council voted to hear the human representative, under conditions of diplomatic immunity. Thela added pointedly, "I trust all members will honor this agreement." Murmurs of reluctant assent filled the chamber as the security feed showed a shuttle departing from the Earth vessel, heading toward the station's diplomatic docking bay. Admiral Alina Rice adjusted her formal uniform as the shuttle docked with the massive council station. Despite years commanding humanity's defense forces, she felt a flutter of anxiety. She wasn't just representing Earth, she was representing humanity's future. "Remember," Dr. Marcus Chen said beside her, "the Council operates on principles of strength and consensus. Show resolve, but not aggression." Elena nodded. In the 3 years since their first desperate defense, Marcus had become Earth's foremost expert on galactic politics, piecing together understanding from captured data and subsequent contacts. "The Mercian ambassador confirmed she'll support our petition," Elena replied, "and the Orathi have indicated they're sympathetic. It may not be enough," Marcus cautioned. "The major powers control most votes through proxy systems and client states." The shuttle's door hissed open, revealing a reception party of Council security, a mix of organic and robotic guards representing multiple species. Admiral Rise of Earth announced a towering reptilian figure with ceremonial markings. "The Council awaits. Your companion may accompany you as advisor, but may not address the Assembly directly." Elena stepped forward, back straight and head high. "Lead on." The walk through the station was clearly designed to impress, or intimidate, visitors. Vast chambers opened onto gardens with exotic vegetation from 100 worlds. Gravity shifted subtly between sections, accommodating the preferences of different species. Artwork and technology beyond human comprehension decorated the walls. Finally, they'd reached the council chamber itself, a cavernous space with concentric rings of seating surrounding a central speaking platform. Hundreds of representatives from across the galaxy watched their entrance with a mix of curiosity, hostility, and fear. As Elena took her position on the platform, she felt the weight of billions of human lives on her shoulders. Everything, their survival, their future, depended on what happened in this room. High Counselor Zexra's voice echoed through the chamber. "Representative of Earth, you stand before the Galactic Council to answer for your species' actions. The unprovoked attack on the quantum network has been deemed an act of aggression against all civilized worlds." Elena's voice remained steady as she responded. "With respect, High Counselor, Earth's actions were not unprovoked. The Axoni Imperium invaded our world, bombarded our cities, and slaughtered millions of our people. We defended ourselves with the only means available to us. Your defense extended far beyond legitimate targets," countered a representative from one of the Axoni's allies. "Systems across 12 sectors experienced failures. Trade routes were disrupted. Lives were lost on worlds that had no part in the conflict. And we regret any unintended consequences," Elena replied. "But consider our position. Earth is a single world, recently introduced to the galactic community. We were given no opportunity to join this council, no chance to seek protection under your laws. Instead, we were deemed acceptable targets for conquest." She paused, her gaze sweeping the chamber. "Is this the justice the council offers? Protection for the powerful, exploitation for the rest? If so, humanity cannot accept such terms." Murmurs rippled through the assembly. Ambassador Thela stepped forward from her section. "The representative raises valid concerns," the Mercian diplomat interjected. "For too long, The Council has maintained a hierarchy that benefits established powers at the expense of emerging species. The Martian Confederacy proposes that humanity be granted provisional membership and that a commission be established to investigate the Axoni invasion of Earth. Digital displays around the chamber flickered as members registered their positions. Alina could see the alliances forming in real time, mostly splitting along existing power blocks. Humanity has demonstrated its willingness to employ extreme measures, said Delegate Kovac. Before we consider membership, we must address the potential threat. What guarantees can Earth provide that it will not deploy quantum disruption technology again? Elena had anticipated this question. Earth is prepared to share our defensive protocols and submit to inspections of military installations, provided such measures apply equally to all Council members, including the Axoni and their allies. This caused another stir. Equal inspection was not how the Council typically operated. Unacceptable, declared an Axoni representative. The Imperium will not allow a primitive species to dictate terms. Primitive. Elena raised an eyebrow. Your invasion fleet might disagree, if any survived to report. The chamber erupted in shouts and exclamations. Zexra's amplified voice finally restored order. This illustrates precisely why this council exists, the High Counselor stated. To prevent conflicts from escalating into galactic war. Admiral Rice, your petition for membership will be considered, but the Council requires assurances. Elena straightened her shoulders. Earth also requires assurances, High Counselor. We've seen the cost of trusting in the protection of distant powers. She activated a small device she'd brought, projecting a holographic display in the center of the chamber. It showed the locations of human outposts and ships throughout former Axoni space, far more than the Council had realized. Humanity has established a presence in strategic locations across this sector. We formed alliances with several species who share our concerns about Council governance. We don't seek conflict, but we are prepared for it. The implied threat hung in the air. Humanity couldn't win a full-scale galactic war, but they could make victory tremendously costly for any aggressor. Perhaps, suggested Ambassador Thela into the tense silence, what we need is not merely a peace agreement, but a reformation of how the Council operates. The human situation presents an opportunity to address long-standing inequities in our governance. For the next several hours, the debate raged. Proposals and counter-proposals flew across the chamber. Old alliances fractured and new ones formed as the implications of humanity's entrance onto the galactic stage became clear. Throughout it all, Elena stood her ground, neither yielding to threats nor making them herself. Earth would not be conquered, but neither would it become a conqueror. Finally, as the station's artificial day cycle began to wane, High Counselor Zexray called for a formal vote. The Council recognizes the sovereign right of Earth to defend itself against aggression, he announced as the results appeared. Provisional membership is granted, with full status to be determined after a standard probationary period. A commission will investigate the Axoni incursion into Earth space and make recommendations for reparations if warranted. Elena felt a wave of relief, though she kept her expression neutral. Furthermore, Zexra continued, the Council will establish a review committee to examine governance procedures, with representation from both established and emerging powers. Ambassador Thela will chair this committee, with Admiral Reyes serving as Earth's representative. It wasn't everything they'd hoped for, but it was enough. A foothold in the complex politics of galactic civilization. As the session adjourned, Elena found herself approached by various representatives, some offering cautious congratulations, others thinly veiled warnings. Ambassador Thela was among the first to reach her. Well played, Admiral, the Merchant said quietly. But this is just the beginning. The old powers won't surrender their privileges easily. We don't expect them to, Elena replied. But they'll adapt, or they'll be left behind. Much like your species has adapted. Thela's whiskers twitched. The Axoni thought you would be easy prey. Instead, you brought a millennia-old empire to its knees in under 5 years. Survival is a powerful motivator. Indeed, Thala gestured toward a group of representatives watching them from across the chamber. And you've inspired others to consider their own survival. The balance of power is shifting, Admiral. We live in interesting times. As Elena prepared to return to her shuttle, she was intercepted by High Counselor Zexray himself. Admiral Reyes. He greeted her in the formal style. A moment of your time, if you would. Elena nodded, curious. The Voshian led her to a private alcove away from the main corridors. The Council's decision today was politically necessary, Zexray said, his voice lowered. But I must impress upon you the gravity of humanity's position. Your species has gained attention far beyond what you may realize. Is that a warning, High Counselor? An observation. In my 1,000 cycles, I've seen civilizations rise and fall. The most dangerous moment for any species is not when they face extinction, but when they first taste power. All four of his eyes fixed on her intently. How humanity handles this moment will define your place in the galaxy for generations to come. Elena considered his words carefully. We want only what every species deserves, the right to determine our own future. A noble sentiment, Zexray acknowledged. But the history of the galaxy is written by those who claim to seek only self-determination, then discover appetites for much more. With a formal gesture of respect, the High Counselor departed, leaving Elena with an unsettled feeling despite their diplomatic victory. Back aboard the Prometheus, Marcus greeted her with barely contained excitement. You did it, he said as they entered her private quarters. Provisional membership is more than we dared hope for. It's a start, Elena agreed, removing her formal jacket. But Zexray is right about one thing. This is just the beginning. She moved to the viewport, gazing out at the massive council station and the starfield beyond. The galaxy is watching us, Marcus. Not just the council, but countless species who've been pushed to the margins. They're waiting to see what humanity becomes now that we've survived our trial by fire. And what will we become? Marcus asked quietly. Elena's reflection in the viewport stared back at her, superimposed over the distant stars. That's what we have to decide. The easy part was fighting back against the Axoni. The hard part will be remembering why we fought. As the Prometheus prepared to depart, communications detected an encrypted transmission directed specifically to their ship. The source was untraceable, but the message was clear. Asterisk, the Veil watches with interest. The humans have awakened something long dormant in the galaxy. Change comes. We will meet soon, asterisk. Elena ordered the message stored in the secure database. The Veil Collective, the mysterious alliance of technological hermits that even the Council approached with caution, had just reached out directly. Whatever humanity had started, it was spreading far beyond Earth now. The galaxy was stirring, ancient powers were taking notice, and humanity stood at the center of it all. As the Prometheus engaged its quantum drive and disappeared into the depths of space, the Galactic Council remained in emergency session, debating the implications of this new era. Earth had survived its first contact with galactic civilization. Not just survived, but reshaped it. The species that had been dismissed as primitive had proven to be anything but. And in the darkness between the stars, other eyes watched, other minds calculated, and the great game of cosmic powers entered a new and unpredictable phase. Earth's revenge had indeed stunned the Galactic Council, but the true consequences were only beginning to unfold. #EPIOGE. One standard year after Earth gained its Provisional Council membership, Admiral Elena Reyes stood on the observation deck of the New Geneva space station orbiting Earth. Below, the planet showed signs of recovery. Cities being rebuilt, forests replanted, humanity persevering as it always had. "Beautiful, isn't it?" said a voice behind her. Elena turned to find Marcus Chen joining her at the viewport. The scientist had aged visibly during their struggles, but his eyes retained their curiosity and determination. "Worth fighting for," Elena agreed. "How was the conference?" "Productive. 17 species sent scientific delegations. We're establishing joint research initiatives on everything from quantum physics to xenobiology. Marcus smiled slightly. 3 years ago, we didn't even know aliens existed. Now we're hosting Galactic Symposia. Elena nodded. And the security protocols. In place, we're sharing knowledge, not weapons technology. Marcus hesitated. Though the distinction gets blurry sometimes, the Martian representative privately suggested that several species are working on their own versions of our quantum disruption system. Let them, Elena replied. The balance of power is healthier when it's actually balanced. Her communication implant chimed softly. Ray is here. Admiral, came Captain Khan's voice. We've received a priority message from Ambassador Thela. The Council Reform Committee has passed its first set of resolutions. The proposed changes to voting procedures will be implemented next cycle. That's sooner than expected, Elena noted. Any opposition? The usual suspects, but they were outvoted. The smaller powers formed a unified bloc. Good work. Keep me updated. Elena ended the communication and turned back to Marcus. Progress, it seems. On multiple fronts, Marcus agreed. The Veil Collective has finally agreed to a formal meeting next month. Their representatives will arrive at the Jupiter outpost under diplomatic protocols. Elena raised an eyebrow. The Veil is coming out of hiding. Now that is significant. Indeed, according to their communication, they've been watching humanity with particular interest. Something about our adaptive resilience and unconventional problem-solving. A comfortable silence fell between them as they gazed at the Earth turning slowly below. So much had changed, yet humanity's core nature remained the same, resourceful, tenacious, and endlessly adaptable. Do you ever wonder, Marcus asked finally, what would have happened if the Vushans hadn't found us first? If the Exoni had simply appeared in our skies without warning? Elena considered the question. I think the outcome might have been the same. Humanity has always performed best when cornered. A dangerous reputation to have, Marcus observed, but a useful one. Elena straightened her uniform. The council meeting reconvenes in 3 days. I should prepare. As she turned to leave, Marcus called after her. Elena, do you think we did the right thing when we deployed the QEM device? Considering all that's happened since, Elena paused at the doorway. We did the necessary thing. Right and wrong. The galaxy is too complex for such simple judgments now. Her expression softened slightly. But we gave humanity a future among the stars. That's something. As Admiral Rice departed for her next meeting, dozens of ships from Earth and beyond moved through the space around the station. Trade vessels, diplomatic shuttles, science expeditions, all part of humanity's expanding presence in the cosmos. Far from the Sol system, in chambers and command centers across the galaxy, plans were being made. Some species sought alliance with the powerful newcomers, others prepared defenses against potential human expansion, and a few dared to imagine a new galactic order with humanity as a catalyst for change. The quantum network, partially rebuilt and heavily modified, carried whispers from world to world. The humans are coming. The humans have changed everything. And aboard a vessel of impossible geometry, drifting in the void between spiral arms, entities far older than the Council itself observed these developments with what might be described as fascination. Humanity's entrance onto the galactic stage had set in motion events beyond anyone's prediction, ripples that would eventually reach even the ancient observers who had watched civilizations rise and fall since the first sentient beings looked upward and wondered what lived among the stars. The story of Earth and its place in the cosmos was just beginning, and the galaxy would never be the same. E&D.